What makes your book gripping? I would answer that question in one word: tension. Welcome to How to Write Good. I am your host, Daniel Poppie. You can find out more about me at danielpoppie.com. If it is your first time here, How to Write Good is a writing podcast that seeks to find principles and advice that can be applied across a broad range of writing situations. If you've been here before, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button below, and share. Now, I talked about tension before, so if you want to see my episode on tension, you can check it out right here. Or if you're listening to this, you can find it in the link in the description. But just to recap, what is tension? That's the first thing we need to answer. Tension is the question created in the reader's mind. Tension is what makes the reader wonder what is going to happen. Is this story going to go one direction, or is it going to go another? The short answer for how we create tension in the story is that the more we magnify that question in the reader's mind, the more tension will be created. Another way to view this is that the more we make the reader desperate to know the answer to the question we're presenting him or her, the more successful we've been in creating tension. But just knowing what we are aiming at doesn't get us to where we want to be. We need to know how to get there as well. The first thing I think you should have when you're trying to develop tension in your story is a goal for your character. If you want to know more about goals and motivation, here's an episode I have on these two things, either up here or in the description if you're listening. So to start out, we need a goal the character is moving toward. And the point your character starts moving toward that goal to the point where the character achieves or does not achieve that goal is when we are creating the tension. You can think of this as the point where the conflict starts in the story to the point just after the climax of the story where we see the final result of the main character's actions. And the building of tension functions similar to a railroad handcar. You've likely seen a handcar, but you don't know what it is. A handcar is a small railroad car that has a lever in the middle with handles on each side of that lever. So you have to pump the lever up and down, and pumping the lever up and down makes the vehicle move forward. Because it has handles on either side of the lever that is being pumped up and down, two people can push the handcar's lever up and down together, making the vehicle move faster. Building tension in the story can be thought of as a handcar. As the main character moves through the story, he gains a certain amount of ground within the story. He gains an upper hand, if we want to call it that. And then at a certain point when the main character has gained an upper hand, the main character then has some form of a setback, loses ground, or has a disadvantage. This disadvantage can come in a lot of different forms. If your character is trying to survive the tundra of Alaska during winter, a polar bear coming and attacking your main character is going to be a major setback. Your character could also be set back by a hurricane, the maniacal actions of a villain, his own goodwill, or even someone he cares for. I am of the opinion that you can pretty much use anything as a setback in a story if you think through how that is going to create a disadvantage in some way for the character. Now, this process of the character gaining ground and losing ground goes on throughout the entire story. In some cases, the character is going to go 5 steps forward, 2 steps back. And in some cases, the character is going to go 2 steps forward and 5 steps back. As you go through the story, the stakes are going to get higher and higher and higher until we get to the climax of the story, the question is answered, and the tension breaks. One thing to remember when using tension is that you can apply it on any level. You can apply it across an entire book. You can apply it across one chapter. You can apply it across a short section, or you can even just apply it across a few paragraphs. And I do recommend that you think of it on a smaller scale as you build toward the final goal of your book, because this will help every part of your book be more interesting. So how might this strategy of building tension actually work? So imagine we have a character who is moving down a mountain, and he's going down the mountain at a good pace, and he's doing very well. Well, we're going to give him a setback by making him hear a big, huge rumble. Now, this doesn't stop him from moving down the hill. This doesn't create a big barrier, but it creates a question in the reader's mind. Is he going to make it down the mountain, or is there going to be an avalanche? Now the main character is able to make it down half of the mountain without any trouble. But when he gets to the halfway point, he hears another rumble, and when he looks back, he sees that there's an avalanche on another part of the mountain. The main character is not yet in danger, but we're presenting a bigger problem to him. There is not just a mountain now, but he sees evidence of something happening. We are making the question larger in the reader's mind, because where there was only a rumble before, there is an actual avalanche now. And if there's an actual avalanche on another part of the mountain, there can be one where the main character is as well. Of course, the logical response of the character is to move faster. But after a few steps, he hears another rumble, and when he looks back, he sees a huge piece of the mountain breaking off and moving toward him. Now the character is in immediate danger. This is a huge setback, and how can anyone hope to outrun an avalanche? Though it seems futile, the logical response of the main character is to run as fast as he can. And now the main character is being chased down the mountain by an avalanche. At some point, the main character slips, he loses control of himself completely, the avalanche grows nearer, and we have a point in the story where the avalanche gains on the character, and then the character starts to move faster, and back and forth this process goes of the character getting a little farther away from the avalanche, and then the avalanche gaining on the character, and it goes on until the avalanche suddenly overtakes the character can't go any faster, and that character is covered by the snow. Though it might not appear to be the case, the tension in the story has not broken yet because the question has not been answered. The question in the reader's mind in some form is whether the character is going to win or the avalanche is going to win. Now it appears that the avalanche has won, but the reason why we still have that question in our mind is because the writer has not yet shown whether the character is dead or alive. If the character is shown to be dead, the tension will break and we'll see that the avalanche has won. But in this particular story, we show that the character has won, and we break the tension by having the character's hand burst out of the snow. In this particular story, the stakes were whether the main character was going to survive or not. And we made the stakes as high as we possibly could by getting as close to the death of that character as physically possible without crossing over and killing the character altogether. When we look back at this little micro story, we can see that I didn't start with the character an inch away from the avalanche. I started with the character just walking down the hill, and I slowly ramped up what was happening in a step-by-step way. I used logic to figure out what would happen next. First, the character would be walking. Then the character would hear a rumble. Then the character would see an actual avalanche. And finally, the character would have to contend with an avalanche himself. Notice I didn't make the character contend with the avalanche immediately. And there's a good reason for that. A reader doesn't know what's going on in the story, and a reader needs to be guided into more and more tension. The sequence of that tension then needs to make sense, because if the reader can't connect the different parts of the tension together, the tension isn't going to be able to build in the reader's mind. So going back to the beginning, this process of building tension has the main character contending with something in the world. The main character takes a few steps forward, something in the world or another character acts upon the world, and the main character has a setback. The main character takes a few steps forward, has a setback, and there's this back and forth interaction we are using to try to build the tension. If you enjoyed this, you're probably wondering how you can support me. Well, you can actually do two simple things. Follow the first link below to grab a copy of my book, and then follow the second link and sign up for my newsletter. It's that simple. Those two things will mean the world to me and give me more time to write books and create content for you. As always, my name is Daniel Poppie, and this is How to Write Good.